Hi, wonderful listeners. This is Sandy from Your Personal Power Pod. As you know, for the next few weeks, our Personal Power Pod team is taking a break from posting new episodes, so you will have time to catch up on previous episodes, and we can spend time enjoying the holidays with our family and friends. However, at times, something will come up that we believe is important to share with you, so we will occasionally be posting brief Power Pops. Today, I'm thinking about how at this time of year, families and friends gather to celebrate. Sometimes this can be a wonderful experience, but there can also be challenges when people don't communicate well. Shannon and I were remembering a time when she was young and she and her younger brother and my husband and I were traveling in the car. The traffic was really heavy and my husband was tense at the wheel and the kids were giggling and playing in the back seat and having a great time. And in frustration, my husband said, "Will you kids please be quiet so I can focus on the traffic?" The kids responded by lowering their voices and playing in a less rowdy fashion. Their father became more agitated and said, "Quiet down now." The children lowered their voices a bit more and continued to giggle and play. Their stressed father then turned around and yelled, "I said be quiet," at which point the shocked children stopped talking completely and the mood in the car was incredibly tense. When I later reflected on this situation, I realized that what had happened was a failure to communicate. When my husband used the word quiet, he meant silent, but our children interpreted it to mean less volume. A very uncomfortable situation was caused by the lack of a common word definition. I realized that what happened in the car that day happens often when I attempt to communicate. I think we're having a meeting of the minds and later discover there was no connection at all. I can't count the number of times I walked away from a conversation thinking that they understood what I said and then finding out later that the other person had no clue what I was talking about. This is embarrassing, as you can imagine. I talked this over with several friends. We managed to actually communicate about this. And together we came up with some strategies to help avoid miscommunications. We realized that it's important for both people involved in a conversation to participate. Most people assume that the person doing the speaking is the one who's communicating. However, we realize that communication is a two-way street, and the roles of both speaker and listener are equally important. We decided that there are several things we all can do to ensure that the process of delivering and receiving information and feelings flows smoothly. The first thing for both participants is to be mentally present and fully pay attention. We often have been in a conversation where you've been distracted by your phone, things around you. Maybe you're thinking about work or picking up the kids or wondering what you'll have for dinner. It will quickly become apparent that if both participants aren't completely present and completely tuned in to the conversation, clear communication isn't taking place. The second thing both participants can do is to be aware of your body language. Studies have shown that over 75% of communication is nonverbal. Things such as eye contact, tone of voice, facial expression, and how you hold your arms all communicate your level of interest in what's going on. To facilitate good communication, both the speaker and the listener have to maintain good eye contact. Use a pleasant tone of voice, make sure your body language is in an open, friendly position, and smile and nod to indicate that you are both on the same page. The third thing both speaker and listener can do is to give feedback to each other. This may be non-verbally, as I just mentioned, or spoken. The listener can clarify word definitions or ask questions if something is unclear. The speaker can define words that might be confusing or misunderstood and ask if there are questions or if clarification is needed. Since we all come from our own experience and perspective, we often hear what we're expecting or wanting to hear instead of what is really being said. If this skill had been used during the interaction between my children and their father, I'm sure there would have been more understanding and probably no conflict. The fourth thing for both speaker and listener to do is to be aware that communications happens on at least two levels. There is the content level, which is the literal meaning of the spoken words, and there is the process level, which refers to the feelings beneath the words. In the situation with my husband and children, the content was that he wanted them to be quiet. The process was that he was tense and stressed in the traffic situation and needed their help in coping with it. If the listener is aware of both levels, it will add to your understanding of what the speaker is conveying and can help you respond in the most appropriate way. When you're listening and what you're hearing on both levels is the same, you are probably receiving the intended message. However, often the message is different, and this can lead to major confusion on the part of the listener. A common example of this is when you ask someone, "How are you doing today?" And in a sad, slow voice, they say, "I'm fine." The words say all is well, but you obviously know that there's something wrong. The nonverbal cues are telling you the words aren't true. When the process and content are not congruent, it's important for you to pick up on this and ask about what's really going on. I do that all the time with people. If they say, "I'm fine," I say, "That doesn't really sound fine. How are you really? And what is going on? And what can I do to support you?" So pay attention to those kinds of things. Both participants can also further communication by summarizing what you're saying or hearing and giving feedback to each other to ensure you're both on the same track. One last hint is for you to be specific and brief about what you're saying. We've all known people who tend to ramble and add unnecessary details when they talk. You probably don't want to be that person. So when you speak, it's good to follow the rule. Be brief, be bold, and be gone. Hopefully, when you interact with your family and friends and everybody else this holiday season and all the time in your life, you will pay attention to the way you're communicating. Ask yourself, am I clarifying? Am I fully present, using positive body language, defining my words and giving feedback? Am I listening completely and with an open mind? When you do this, communication will happen and your relationships will flourish. I hope you all have a beautiful Thanksgiving filled with love and joy. Pay attention to how you're interacting with your people.